Don the Late Show. The Beatles. We'll take a look at rare photos you've probably never seen. Plus, he was one of the Yankees' most famous players. But his fame turned sour when a drug conviction really destroyed him. Now, he's on the comeback trail. And is it a boy or is it a girl? Don't pass out the cigars until you meet half and half. From Hollywood, it's The Late Show, starring Ross Shafer.
Thank you very much, and welcome to The Late Show. Thank you all. Thank you. Thank you very much. Look at that. Isn't that nice? I can do one of these. I can do one of those. Now, you guys. Well, now you have to stop that. I want to tell, now, as you folks at home can probably tell, we got our applause light fixed. That's very nice. This is, well, it's Thursday night. You know, I know why they're doing that. It's because we're on the street night. Yeah, people like that. And because this is better entertainment than that stupid debate they had last night. Boy, did anybody watch it? Anybody watch the debate? Oh, man, and then they held a poll afterward. They said, who do you think lost? 4% said Quayle, 6% said Benson, 90% said the American public lost that one. And I don't... And then Dan Quayle, I'm trying to like him. I'm really trying to like... Dan Quayle said if he's elected president, the first thing he would do is say a prayer for his country. You're not the only one, pal. And did you hear that? They see, watch that part where they said, well, what books influenced your lives? And Benson, of course, says, well, Winds of War was important, and Guns of August. And then Quayle said, Cat in the Hat. And, all right, I got to quit picking on these guys. One of them's going to be elected, and I'm going to be in big trouble. Family Ties. This is their last season. I suppose you know that. I know. It's a great show. It's a great show, but this is their last season. All their contracts are up. And it's been replaced now by a new series that will have all the joy and laughter, warmth and tears. It's called The Tysons. People wonder why Robin Givens stays married to him, but I can think of about 55 million reasons. Okay, wait, before we go any farther, I want to remind everyone about our John Lennon special tomorrow night. We are going to devote an entire hour to the life of John Lennon. It's a terrific show. It's a great show, and you're not going to want to miss this. Now, as I mentioned, it is Thursday night. It is Word on the Street night. Now, this is where we take our cameras out in the street somewhere in Los Angeles and shoot people on the streets with our cameras. Then we bring the film back, take the words out of their mouths, and put our own in. Well, tonight we have a very special best of Word on the Street. We'll play that right now.
I'm wearing a swimsuit that's much too small for me.
Boy, those last two were really tough. I didn't think that I'd be able to make it.
Papa Bear, this is Goldilocks. What's your 20?
I'm 2 feet away from you, over.
I got you in my sights, over.
You're breaking up. I think we should get closer.
Okay, moving in.
Stand by.
Don't hit me or I'll sing bad opera.
Miss Juven, look at this weird balloon I found in the backseat of my brother's car.
Oh, that's good, Timmy.
Look what I found. Looky. It's a weird balloonie.
Is my little friend thirsty?
Oh, si, Senor Wincies.
How's the water?
Oh, sarai.
It's all right?
Sarai.
Oh.
And one more. And three more. And two more. Come on, let's switch. Come on, let's bring
take a look at that ugly weasel.
You talking to me? You talking to me? Mr. Big Shot got his head out of the sand? Oh, I'm scared. I'm shaking. Ooh.
Where do you want to eat?
Let's eat in there.
Where?
In there.
Where?
Let's go eat in there.
Where?
In there.
Where?
In there.
Where?
In there.
I got an idea. Let's eat in here.
Where?
Here.
Where?
Here.
Where?
Here. What are you, stupid? And I can't stand the way you look at other women all the time.
Lamb Chop, I can't believe you're saying this. You know I only have eyes for hello.
Statue Man, I am Statue Man. I do not move because I am Statue Man. Statue Man, I am Statue Man. Now I am moving man. I'm back to Statue Man. Statue Man, he is Statue Man. He does not move because he is Statue Man.
Boy, that's a beautiful babe over there. Ooh, look at her. She's beautiful. She really does something, old Chubby the Clown. Oh, God, baby. Oh.
Honey, have you seen the car keys?
Let me look. No, that's not them.
Whoa. Word on the street. I'm glad you like that one. We have quite a show planned for you, and we're going to take a little break and come back with the star gossip columnist, Janet Charlton. So please stay with us, folks.
The Late Show is brought to you by the new Polaroid Impulse camera. Comes in 4 very impulsive colors. So if you're ready for really incredible pictures, go with your impulse.
Welcome back. Welcome back to The Late Show. Janet Charlton's going to be here first, though. I have a couple of very important club dates, nightclub dates I want to plug here. October 17th, I'm going to be at the Comedy Magic Club in Hermosa Beach, and Saturday, October 22nd, I'm going to Comac, Long Island, to a new club there called The Showcase. So please, come on out and see me. Please. All right, now, what's going on with Mike Tyson and Robin Givens, besides the new show I was telling you about? What's going on with Lisa Marie Presley and her new husband, brand new husband? Well, we have a woman here who knows all the inside dirt. Joining us once again, a Late Show regular, our celebrity snoop, Janet Charlton. Okay, let's get right with this, huh?
Let's get right with the hottest topic of the times. Okay. Isn't that Robin Givens and Mike Tyson? I want to show you Hollywood's sentiment. Now, this is a T-shirt that was seen. This T-shirt was worn at a club called the Peace Posse last week by one of the Beastie Boys, so don't get too close.
Really?
It might smell a little funny. But this is now going around Hollywood. Free Mike Tyson. Everyone is on Mike Tyson's side now. Poor Robin Givens is now the bad guy in this relationship. Everything changed, yeah.
Yeah, but why is that? He's the one throwing stuff out of windows.
Well, you know, since they were on 2020 and Robin announced that her husband was a manic depressive and beat her up, all of Mike Tyson's fans are outraged.
Oh.
And now I understand Robin Givens fears for her own safety. She has a bodyguard, and it's not against Mike Tyson. It's his fans. They're so angry about the way she's treating him, and they're convinced that this is a plot to take all his money, that she and her mother are absolutely working against him and not with him. Now, all this changed after they went on the air. You know, people were very sympathetic for a while, but they couldn't believe that a wife would go on the air and talk that way about her husband if she were sincere about loving him.
Ah.
You know, so we've been a little uncertain.
I guess when Barbara Walters gets to you, though,
yeah,
you just open up.
Right.
You know, yeah.
Well, everybody seems to think this is kind of a plan. Now, you know, old boyfriends of Robin's are coming out of the woodwork, and they're starting to tell stories about Robin, saying, well, she tried to nab me because I have some money, but I was too smart for her.
Oh, that's what they're saying about her.
Yeah, and they're saying that her mother masterminded the whole thing about finding a rich husband for her beautiful daughter, and that Mike is like an innocent victim, and they really feel that the worst thing in the world you could say about the champ is that he needs lithium. You know, they don't want, you know, his fans don't want to hear that. And now Robin is really suffering, and she's really the evil one in the deal.
So what do you think? Do you think that maybe she
I'll tell you,
a little scheming?
Yeah, it's funny. At first I thought, well, maybe Robin's a big help to him because he needs a little advice with his finances, maybe with his life. But, you know, when they were in Russia, and they had some sort of an argument, and it ended up with Robin and her mother rushing down to the lobby of the hotel, screaming and making a huge fuss. And then last week when he broke, you know, I guess the idea of the 2020 show hit him like a day late, and he lost his temper, and he started breaking windows in their house. Robin and her mother called the police and ran outside again as if they're looking for publicity. You know, if you're a celebrity and you have a problem, the first person you call is not the police.
No, not really,
You get
no.
some kind of private help, and you work it out yourself. But they're making such a massive public display out of bringing all his problems out in the open that it looks like she's setting up divorce case. And there were rumors that she might be filing for divorce this week in Santa Monica, and the courtroom's been having calls from all over the world, but it hasn't happened yet.
Okay, well, let's go on to something else. Let's talk about the Lisa Marie Presley marriage. 20 years old?
Yeah.
She's 20 and he's 20?
I'll tell you, yes, all the Casanovas, all the gigolos in Hollywood are heartbroken because they were just waiting for Lisa to grow up.
Well, yeah, she's sitting on a huge fortune.
She's the best catch in Hollywood. She's a beautiful blonde girl, and she's got all the money in the world, and she's got the Presley name. So naturally, you know, everybody is like very upset about this marriage. Yeah. But Priscilla could be, you know,
few of our staff members.
She's kind of relieved, actually. Priscilla's kind of relieved because the guy is a Scientologist. His name is Danny Keough, and he's 23 years old, and he's a Scientologist. And she met him in Scientology. She's been involved in it for years, and they've been like seeing each other on and off for about 3 years, although she was just in Europe, and she was seen supposedly with Prince Albert having a little bit of a fling. As soon as she came back, now this is interesting, as soon as she came back, she rushed in and got married. Now, of course, Priscilla's relieved because the guy is not like the kind of guy that's going to try to take her money. You know, he seems like a very clean-cut, religious guy, no drugs.
What does he do for a living?
No bad reputation. He's an aspiring musician.
Oh, yeah, so he doesn't need any money.
But he works...
Yeah.
No, he comes from a good family, He's not from a poor family, and he's, you know, he's actually not a bad catch, but... So Priscilla's not the most unhappy person in the world, but of course, you know, I don't know how Elvis would feel knowing that a lot of his fortune is certainly going to go to the Scientology church because Priscilla is so involved and her husband is now so involved. And also there's rumors that could it possibly be that Priscilla, that Lisa Marie might be wanting a baby very soon.
That's...
She got married very suddenly, and she'd been talking, she loves children, she'd been talking about it, so we don't know. You know, this is just a possibility, but it was a very abrupt marriage.
So it's a possibility it could be born prematurely.
It's quite... Yeah. Anything can happen in this world, right?
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for your report. This is Janet Charlton. We have, speaking of famous people, we have a very unique act. One of the people on our staff saw this act, so we've got to bring him on the show. You aren't going to believe this. He's 2 entertainers in one, folks. Please welcome actor, singer, impressionist, Dan Hankins.
I can say goodbye in the low morning light. but I can't watch love die in the war of the night. If I've got to be strong, don't you know I need to have tonight? When you go, till you go, I need to like it and think about the last time that you touched me. Mornings were blue and gold, and we could feel one another then. We walk within dream to hope that we could take what the world was given. There's no tomorrow here, there's only love, the time to chase it. Yesterday's gone, my love, there's only now and the time to touch me in the more. Wasn't it me who said that nothing good's gonna last, then just walk away? And wasn't it me who said it's just be glad this time we don't have tomorrow? There's no tomorrow here, there's only love and the time to chase it. But we are yesterday, yesterday's gone, my love, there's only now and the time to touch me in the morning. Reach out and touch me in the morning.
Dan Hankins. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Thank you. We're going to come back and talk with Dan Hankins after these late show tunes. Stay with us. What over here? Entertainer Dan Hankins, who now, you went back there and changed, and I was thinking, gosh, if he comes over and sit down, do I talk to the man or the woman?
I don't believe I made it. I mean, doing 2 hours, taking off 2 hours of makeup in less than 2 minutes.
It takes about 2 hours to get in there?
2 hours for Diana.
Wow. Now, how did you figure that out, or how did you come to do half and half like that? Okay.
Well, originally it started out here in L.A. about 4 years ago. I was a commercial actor and model and makeup artist, and I would do makeup when there wasn't any work. Okay, so I also taught this at a school here, and one of the ladies was having a Halloween birthday party, and I went to the costume shop and I'd seen this half bride and groom, but at any rate, the costume shop closed before I can pick up my gladiator costume. So I was helping her with the party, and I ended up using some of her stuff to make myself a half soldier, half his girlfriend costume.
Good grief.
And everybody loved it at the party. And they thought it looked like Dinah Ross.
And it's turned into a real professional deal for you. Now, I understand you won about $56,000 on that show, putting on the hits.
Exactly.
Doing this, and now you're doing gigs in Atlantic City.
Yes, at Bally's Park Place.
Yeah, so it's really happening for you.
Yeah, it's been like Nobby Alamon is the producer there, and he saw the show putting on the hits, which actually the way that happened was I did, after Halloween costume, after 2 years after L.A., I did the Diana, because everybody said it looked so much like Diana. I did Diana and a greasy mechanic on one side, and it got so much response. My girlfriend, Mom...
okay.
Yeah, she started pushing me to...
No, I was going to ask if you had a girlfriend or a boyfriend, or if you had both.
Say both, huh? No.
Yeah, I didn't know, because I wasn't going to be...
Yeah, so at any rate, everybody in my family started also pushing me to do a lip sync contest, and that's how I got on putting on the hits.
Oh, that's really fun. That's really fun for us to see. Yeah, nice job, Dan.
Thank you very much.
Good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you.
All right. We have to go away, but we'll be right back. Stick around, folks. Welcome back. We have with us an American success story here, folks. At 15 years old, this woman passed her state boards and became a hairdresser. Then, at 47, she got her Ph.D. and became a high-paid psychotherapist. Last March, she was named by a nationwide poll of her peers as one of the country's best therapists. Please welcome hairdresser turned psychotherapist, Lois Dabney-Smith. Hi, Lois. This is quite a story. Now, at 15 years old, 16, you become a hairdresser.
Right.
All right. And then you're a hairdresser for 19 years or
Almost 20. Almost 20 years.
At what point when you're cutting hair do you think I could be a psychotherapist?
It doesn't happen exactly that way.
Oh.
What really happened was customers would come in with problems, and they would talk to me. Have you been to the barber shop and feel how good it feels?
Oh,
and how
I unload
therapeutic
my
that is?
chest when I'm
right.
Yeah.
Bartenders, barbers, and beauticians.
That's the way. But barbers and beauticians are really good at talking to you
and listening.
Yeah, I guess so.
I really learned how to listen in those years. I didn't have therapeutic skills, but I had good listening skills. I would listen to what people said, the words they used, and I would read body language. I got pretty good at it. And then there was that intuitive part of me that kind of said, wait a minute, something doesn't fit right here. So I got lots of training, 20 years of learning from women, the kinds of problems that they had, and I started wondering about what to do about it.
Were you giving advice along the way, too?
I tried not to.
Oh, you tried not to?
Tried not to, because I didn't know what to say. I didn't know what to do. What I did do was to empathize with them. I could say things like, that must hurt a lot, or that must be really tough.
Or I'll stop the bleeding here in a minute, something like that.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, well, and then you have a daughter in college.
2 daughters.
You have
twin
two daughters. Okay,
twin
so you're
daughters.
supporting all this along the way. Now, what about your husband? What is he?
Jim. Oh, he's wonderful.
yeah, Jim. What does Jim do?
Jim is a sanitation worker for the city of Pittsburgh.
Okay.
He worked in construction for a lot of years, but for the last 25 years, he's been with the city of Pittsburgh.
And what did he think about you going into psychotherapy? Did you practice at him with him?
You want to hear a funny story?
I'd love to.
When I learned how to do hypnosis, I went straight home that night, because it's not very hard to learn. Went home that night and said, I learned something new. I learned how to hypnotize people. And he said, yeah, sure. And I said, yeah, come on, sit down. 5 minutes later, he woke up or came out of a trance or whatever, and he said, well, when are you going to start?
Oh, you snapped him just like that?
Just like that.
So
Jimmy said, yeah, I think you're pretty good at what you do.
Well,
Just
yeah.
don't do that again.
Well, you could get your way with him anytime you want now, can't you?
Anytime.
Anytime you want. In fact, you're married 36 years, is that right?
36 and a half.
36 and a half years.
Yeah.
How about that? Now, how do we know when we need a psychotherapist? How do we know if we're supposed to be in therapy?
Well, you know, the key to that is if you think you need to be there, you do. If you think you have a problem, you've got one.
Really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's right.
All right.
So you go, you find someone, check them out. You know, it's important that if you go into therapy, you like your therapist, you feel good about what the therapist does. If you're doing most of the talking, that's a cue that something's not right. Sometimes a therapist should be giving you feedback. I get a lot of referrals from people who have been to psychiatrists who, I'm told, just sit there and listen and never say anything. People want an exchange. They want to know what you think, how you feel about what they're saying.
I would go if I thought they were all like Bob Newhart.
Really?
Yeah.
I like him too.
Now, you also started something that was tough to get going. Psychotherapy for alcoholics.
Yes.
Tell me a little about this, because what I did read was that it's very hard to get something like that going because there isn't a lot of sympathy for alcoholics.
Not a lot of sympathy and not a lot of money, especially if you're running a public program. What happened is I was working as a counselor, my very first job. I got hired on the very first interview I went on. And I had this job for about a year, and the program was defunded. While I was there, I noticed that a lot of the people were not getting treatment because they would come to the program intoxicated. And my sense of the Salvation Army was that's why they were really there, to help those people who had drinking problems and other problems. So I wrote a proposal that said that people who were intoxicated should have a chance to come into treatment, rather than being picked up by the police, for example, for being intoxicated in public. So instead of seeing a person intoxicated out on the street corner and the police taking them to jail, they would bring them to my program. I started that program in 1976, and it's going strong right now.
Yeah, it's doing very well now.
Doing very well.
Okay.
Yes.
It's apparently the model program for some other things that
for the whole state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah. Okay. How much time now do you get to spend working with that and your private practice?
Well, I've given up the Salvation Army program. I gave it up 4 years ago, and went full-time private practice.
Okay. Now you get somebody in there.
Yeah.
Can you tell right away if you can cure them quickly, or can you predict that you're going to need to come back for 5 years?
Not 5 years.
No.
If you're in treatment longer than 2 years, something's wrong.
Oh.
A mean would be maybe a year. Depends on the severity of the problem. But yes, I can usually tell what kind of problem we're working with in the first session.
Okay. You know, I want to go into the audience and ask some questions.
Good.
With these people. Let them ask some questions of you.
Sure.
And if somebody has a problem, we'll be able to identify it here, and you can either fix it or we'll cut their hair. Okay? Okay. Let's go. All right. Who has a question? You had one, didn't you, a little earlier? What is your name?
Joy.
Okay, Joy, what's your question?
Are the tips better?
I don't get tips now. They used to be not very good, but now I don't get any tips at all.
All right. How about down here? You, sir.
You want me to stand up?
Go ahead and stand up there.
Do you find you have more stress in your new career? And if so, do you sometimes wish you could go back to the old one if the money was the same?
Actually, I don't have any stress. I didn't have stress in the first one, and I don't have stress in the second one because I don't allow myself to get to that point. There are lots of things that I do to keep from getting stressed out. I wouldn't be any help to you if I were stressed out. I jog, I run, I play in my hot tub.
But aren't there times when you think, God, I just don't want to listen to anybody's problems anymore. I have enough problems in my own life.
I have an ability to leave those problems at the office. I don't carry them home.
Okay.
What I wondered is if you have children, are you analytical with them and what they do?
I'm just mom with them.
Yeah, you don't try to psychoanalyze
nope,
those people?
Not my family, not my friends, and none of my relatives.
Okay. All right. Yeah, because that could make a long Easter.
Yes.
First of all, I wanted to commend you for having the initiative to make the change. I think that's really terrific.
Thank you.
My question was, do you get better stories now as a professional therapist? Or, well, I don't mean stories, but you know, like
They're a little more in depth because now I know how to probe and go down deeper and get, you know, the gutsy kinds of things out. Mm-hmm. The problems are basically the same, but what I'm able to do about them now makes the difference.
The gutsy stuff, like
the gutsy stuff.
Yeah, like what do you mean by that when you say the gutsy stuff?
Well, you know, what's down there? What makes a person hurt? What makes a person stressed out? And what can they do about it? Where's the pain coming from? How long has it been there?
Question here.
Yes. You told us a little bit about how you handled each of these jobs. I wonder if you'd tell a little bit about the difference in fulfillment between dealing with matted lives versus matted hair.
Not an awful lot sometimes. I loved your question. It's a the two fields are very similar, and that perhaps is the reason I moved from one to the other. The information that the customers brought me were things like what their childhood was like, the kinds of problems they were having in their relationships, some of the financial problems. Those are the kinds of problems that patients bring me now. So all I'm doing is pretty much working on the very same problems that I identified 20 years ago in customers.
Lois, why is it that we feel like we can open up to somebody who's cutting our hair? I mean, what is going on psychologically that I might sit down in the chair, know somebody for 5 minutes as they're giving me a trim, and they're asking questions, and all of a sudden you just start spilling your guts to someone you don't know?
I don't know that it's always 5 minutes because you tend to go back to the same barber or the same beautician, and so you build a relationship and a trust level. And there's something very therapeutic about having something done to your body. Very, very relaxing. And especially if you go to that person often, you build that level of trust, you will share.
My question is, what motivates a person to make such a drastic change of career?
As I was trying to say, it wasn't so drastic because I was dealing with problems, you know, in the beauty shop as well as trying to make people feel better about themselves and look better. I'm doing the very same kinds of things now. I'm not using a comb, I'm using a pencil and a pad. But it's basically the same kinds of people-oriented work.
Lois Dabney-Smith, thank you very much for being with us. We're going to take a short break, but after this break, we have some very rare Beatle photos, so stay with us.
Little Miss Muffet. sat on her tuffet, eating her curds and whey. Along came a
She ate the spider.
Oh, somebody call her a
spider in here, please.
Welcome back to the show. I mentioned earlier that we have our John Lennon special tomorrow night. Now, we want to talk a little more about the Beatles. About 25 years ago, those guys, the Fab Four, cast a spell over this country, over the world, that has never been recovered. In fact, their impact is still pretty hard to measure. Well, here with us right now is a man who has collected some of that supergroup's magic. Rare photos of the Beatles, some of which have never been seen before. And I want you to welcome their collector, Colin Kaye.
Hi,
Ross. You have an exhibition. You have an exhibition. We were talking a little bit earlier. They have an exhibition of Beatles photographs that some 4,000 people filter through just to look at photographs.
Down under, Ross, in Australia, it was an idea I had about 5 years ago to put together a collection of original photographs of the Beatles. And I used to say to friends of mine, I'm going to do this show. And they said, well, where are you going to get the photographs from? I said, I've got no idea. And I went and sat in a bookshop in Melbourne, and I suppose for about 2 weeks I looked through every book I could find on the Beatles, and slowly but surely Dejo Hoffman's name emerged. Dejo Hoffman is probably the best photographer of the Beatles. And I rang a bookstore in London, and by sheer luck they gave me his home phone number. And I rang him, this was back in 1983, and said I'd like to come and see him in London. He said, please come over and see me. And I flew over there, and I met him at his little studio in Soho, and he was 67 years of age at the time, and I had brown hair then, it's a fair way back, and we became good friends, and I was absolutely staggered to find that he had this archive of shots of the Beatles that literally had never been seen for some 20 years. He had locked them away.
Well, let's take a look. This is the first one I'd like to show, and this is of what?
That's one of the early recording sessions, and that's a fascinating shot because in the background you can see George Martin, who was the famous producer, and also John with his glasses on, which he didn't like taking shots in those days with his glasses. Later on it was a real sort of part of him, but that's a very early recording session shot at Abbey Road.
Why did they have an official photographer, somebody that would follow him around?
Well, Dejo Hoffman became something of a father figure to the Beatles. He'd worked with people like Louis Armstrong and Marilyn Monroe, and when they had this opportunity to meet him, he went up there in 1962 and first met them in Liverpool. And he was a professional. They looked up to him as a father figure. And he became close to them, not just professionally, but personally. And so he had this opportunity, like you saw in that shot there, to go into the studio and take these shots, which at that time no other photographer had access to.
Let's look at some more here. This is the Cavern Club shot?
That's a very famous shot, and I think it's probably the only still shot of the Beatles in the Cavern. The Cavern was the famous place where the Beatles played in Liverpool. They had, in fact, finished playing there at that time, but Dejo took them back down there to catch a shot, just sheerly for posterity's purposes. The Cavern, as you can see from there, was a very small, grimy place. You can see the seats where the people used to sit, and it became a very famous place.
Now, we got another one, I think, coming up. We'll see one of the Beatles with a black eye.
This is a really interesting shot. It was taken at their first ever recording session at Abbey Road Studios when they cut Love Me Do. Again, Dejo had access to the studio, and if you look at George Harrison's left eye, it's black, and the reason for that is that Ringo's only been in the band 18 days, and their original drummer, Pete Best, who had been told to leave the band, was very popular with all the girls down the Cavern Club, and they went down to play in the Cavern. There was this great big fight, apparently, so Dejo tells me, and George copped the shiner out of it.
Okay. Now, part of the charm of the Beatles, obviously, was their personalities, which when I talked to Julia Baird, John's sister, that was what Liverpool was all about. There's a picture that you have of donkeys and swimsuit shot.
That's a really interesting stock and very pertinent to the American market because in 1963 he took them up onto a beach called Weston-super-Mare. It's up there now, and they were coming to America the next year, and he knew they needed something very, very strong for the American market. So he got them dressed up in these funny uniforms, and those shots in 1964 went America-wide. I don't know if anyone can remember them way back then, but we have both those shots on display at the exhibition. And Dejo was telling me that John, in his typical madcap way, long after all the other guys had taken off their funny uniforms, he was walking around the hotel lobby with his on hours after, because, you know, it was just the way he was.
Now, what's this? There's a photo of the Beatles holding their hearts that we have.
Another really interesting shot. This was the first time that Dejo told me that he experienced that extraordinary phenomena of Beatlemania. This was taken at the Liverpool Empire, in Liverpool, needless to say, and you can see there this heart shape, which some fans in the audience had sent in as an appreciation to the Beatles. But Dejo told me he arrived at the Liverpool Empire, he couldn't get in because of the people, and then when he got in, he couldn't get out. He said it was unbelievable. He said there was just thousands of people in every direction, and it was his first experience of Beatlemania.
We first experienced the Beatles big time, I think, on the Ed Sullivan Show. That seemed to us to be the Beatles landing
started here,
in America. This shot is from that show.
Once again, and it was sort of Dejo's privilege, he was the official photographer on that first tour into the United States. And as you said, Ross, this was taken on the Ed Sullivan Show in 1964.
Do you have any idea what the Beatles' reaction to the exhibition is?
Well, I hope they like it. I think that I've tried in the show to capture some of that, the joy and the happiness that we all experienced then. And to all you people who are listening, try and come down and see it, because they are very rare photographs and they do capture that time very strongly.
All right. Well, this has been marvelous. I'm glad that you brought those.
I'm very glad.
Yeah, and it's a great lead-in, of course, to tell us about our Lennon special tomorrow. Colin Kaye. Well, the Beatles are as fascinating a topic today as they have been. It's really hard to measure their popularity. And the songs, you hear them in elevators everywhere. That's why tomorrow night we are going to devote an entire hour to probing the life of probably, as Colin mentioned, the most notorious Beatle, John Lennon. So I hope you'll watch that tomorrow. We're going to take a break. We'll be right back. That's right. Welcome back, folks. We are back with probably what could be a pretty outrageous ball player from the '60s. You know him as well. I'm not gonna tell you any more about him, because you'll know him when you see him. Say hi to Joe Pepitone. Joe, thank you. First of all, he brings a baseball signed by Don Mattingly and yourself and Dave Winfield and Ricky Henderson. And so now I'll be playing catch with this thing. Thank you very much, Joe. You were pretty flamboyant in those days. I remember you wearing a wig. Why was that? Long hair and a wig?
Well, I used to have hairstyling shops. I got into that business, but the wig was always a part of my thing. I liked the long hair. I was the first one to bring a hairdryer into the clubhouse.
I remember
at that time, Hank Bow and everybody thought I was a little strange, you know. So we had a tough time getting through that. I remember one instance we were playing in, matter of fact, in Los Angeles, when I was with the Chicago Cubs, and I was up 3 times with bases loaded, and I struck out 3 times with bases loaded. And the third time, I remember getting my helmet and flipping it. My helmet went this way to the third base, and my hairpiece went to the first baseman. And it was like it was a strange situation. But before anybody could know anything, I had everything on my head, you know. But it was the hairstyle was my business at that time. It was the way I wanted to do things. I was the first one, I think. Everybody had baggy pants in those days. In the '60s, everything was baggy. It wasn't like they are now. It looks like they're painted on.
Oh yeah, the peg leg.
And I used to, when I first came up, I had 8 uniforms. I had them all tailored to fit tight, you know. So I tried to change everything, and it's the way I liked it. But before I knew it, I was getting fined more than I was getting paid. So.
Yeah. You're drafted at 17 years old, were you?
Yeah, I was drafted right out of high school with the New York Yankees at 17. Right?
And went right into the bigs?
I went right into the, no, I played 2 years in the minors. My first year in the minors, when I got signed, I signed for $25,000 as a bonus.
That's a lot of dough then.
At that time, yeah, and $100 a week playing ball. And on the way to spring training, I bought a new Thunderbird, 1958 Thunderbird. And halfway down to spring training, I bought a boat. And a little further on, I bought this dog, a year old, out of a kennel. I put him in a boat with water skis. And when I pulled up to spring training, my manager was standing outside the hotel. And he knew it was Pepitone because I had a sharkskin suit on with suspenders and a little mop hairdo. And he said, what are you down here to play ball or vacation? I said, a little of each. I said, and the next day, of course, the boat was gone, the car was gone, and the dog.
Oh, and the dog. Yeah. Now, you were a partier. You were kind of baseball's Joe Namath at that time.
Well, it was, yeah, I was...
Isn't it, now, you tell me if this is right, that one time you missed a game because you were psychologically unprepared to play? You were on your butt, weren't you, Joe?
I think, yeah, that's about 3 days of drinking straight. Yeah, that's about it, yeah. I learned that from Mickey. I don't want to say too much about Mantle because Mantle's a good friend of mine, but Mantle was, he broke me in right. He was like, when I first came with the Yankees, I had a little problem at the time with marital-wise. Mantle was living at the same Ritz Hotel in New York, and he said, why don't you come live with me, kid? And he took me with him, and I broke in pretty good.
You learned a major league way. Right. Now, did you play Japan? Did you play in Japan for a while?
I played in Japan after the 1973 season. They called me up about a year in a row, a year, and asked me to come down to Japan and play, and I kept refusing them. They came up with pretty good money, and I went down, and nothing against Japan, but it's probably one of the biggest mistakes I ever made in my life because it was 24 Japs and me. Ooh. And it's a little tough to handle. I don't want to get into a story, but I remember when I first went to the hotel that I was in, there was this sign, and then right away, you know, being from, you know, flamboyant, and wanting to go out and party a little bit, and there was no Americans around, not too many Americans. I wanted a rub down. So I saw this sign. I saw the sign that said in the hotel that you massage, Class A massage, Class B, C, and D massage, and then underneath said wax job. So massage is a true story.
And a wax job.
Wax job. So I just went in. I didn't know what it was.
A hot wax with your massage.
But I knew it was 2 million yen, so I figured that's the best thing to get. I remember laying down and about 3 girls rubbing you down and all this in Japan. And next thing you know, I was starting to feel good. I don't know if I should tell the story.
No, well, I think we can get the picture.
But the next thing I knew that at the end, just about at the end, you know, I started saying, hey, where's this wax job? You know, there's enough of this rub down with the powder and the cream. Where's the wax job? No, and they started laughing. Next thing I know, about another 10 minutes into the rub down, they said, all right, turn over. And I was pretty well excited. And when I turned over, they started laughing again. Well, I don't know what. They said, no, somebody hit a gong. And this big guy came out and wrapped me right across, you know what, and a wax popped out of my ears.
Oh, that's the wax job. I see. I sucked right into that.
I know. I think I was.
You know, and then there's some serious things happen to you. You're arrested, I guess, in '85 on drug charges. Mm-hmm. And did you actually go to prison over this deal? Or?
Yes, I did. I just about a month ago, I was released. I was away on a misdemeanor drug charge, and I served, had 6-month sentence, and I served 4 months.
Yeah, they treat you differently in there because you're Joe Pepitone?
It's kind of different. There was I got along with everybody in prison. It was mostly black and Puerto Ricans and 3 Italians. And in my dorm, there was 200 blacks and 3 Italians, and I hung out with the blacks against it. So, but it was something serious. It was something that shouldn't have happened. The wrong place at the wrong time. Very fortunate, but again, getting out of it and coming out of it and everything happening right and a positive reaction with the newspapers when I got out.
And George Steinbrenner rehired you as a scout. Right. So things are going well for you now. Huh?
Everything's going fine.
All right, we got just about how much time? About 20 seconds. You got to tell us who's going to win the World Series.
I better say Dodgers, right?
Well, you're in L.A.
I like when it gets down to nitty gritty with all the teams after it's all over. I think Oakland's going to take it all.
You think the A's are going to get it? See, Joe, thanks for dropping by. Joe Pepitone. We got to go away. We'll be right back, folks. concludes our show, but I do want to thank Janet Charlton, Dan Hankins, Lois Dabney-Smith, Colin Kaye, and Joe Pepitone. Once again, I want to tell you about tomorrow night's show. A very special show. We're going to take the whole hour and look at the life of John Lennon. We're going to see scenes from his private home movie collection and interview the people who knew him best. That's it. See you soon, folks.